Hi, all, Slim here. This is my tips for hardcore. The target audience for this is people that are thinking of trying HC in PoE1 or new at HC and just looking for tips. A little bit of context before I start. What you are seeing in the background is Act 10 of my first character in HC, which is Kinetic Fizzlad Ballista Hierophant using the Max Roll build guide. I like to have 3 builds in maps before I start pushing yellow maps, by the way. This is for PC and console players. I play on console, but it has nothing to do with the context I'm doing today. I consider myself an intermediate player, been playing for a couple of years, but I still play HC since 2-3 leagues now. I'm doing this, we are in 3.28 league and I have 3 builds in maps, pushing yellow maps for now with my 3rd build. Died once in HC yet. So since I am an intermediate player that I play on console, so a harder version of the game, and can play HC, I think my way works. Everything I say here are only my opinions based on my experience. So let's start with the tips. Park and mule. What I mean by this, if this is your first playthrough in HC, uh, pick up a bow build, ranger, do the first boss, get to town, sell stuff or keep stuff that maybe are good, and leave it there. Why? Because on your first build, let's say you've played for 20 hours, you finished the campaign, you have stuff that you've picked up, and you die. You will lose your content, your inventory. So that is why you need to park something there in case something like that happens, so you don't lose everything that you have picked up. If you play an OP build, it's easy to forget that you are in HC, which happens to me often. So you are starting to play like if you are in softcore. Be careful with this. Flasks are super important. For example, if the build says use a granite flask, is it granite or granite? I have no idea. Which gives you armor. Use it the more often you can or automate it. Be over level. More so if you don't feel OP. So grinding zones in this situation is a good idea. I prefer easy zones that are open, not doors and walls everywhere. My favorite spot is by far Chamber of Innocence, Act 5 and 10. Another popular one is the Aqueduct in Act 4 and Blood Aqueduct in Act 9. Beware of the bleeding there though. Have a corrupted blood health flask ASAP. I also suggest to have at least 2 health flasks. One is more for the bleeding immunity. The other would be more charges, like at least 4, and more health recovery. Getting mana regen high enough so you no longer need a mana flask is very good because you can put a defensive flask instead. The more defense flasks, the better. My setup usually is 2 health, 2 defense, 1 movement. Quicksilver. You could choose Onslaught instead of Quicksilver. It's 20% movement instead of 40, but you get cast and attack speed with it. Life regen better than life leech, at least when starting, since some mobs can have life leech immunity, and life regen is always there. Maybe life leech can be superior at one point, but I prefer life regen by far. Defense before attack. For example, you are using a build guide and at one point it goes left and right. If left side is more defense and right side more DPS, go left first, even if your DPS is lacking. Look for a very tanky build, armor and energy shield, not builds that focuses on evasion rating. You want to be able to make mistakes without getting one shot. Overcap res. Even having 76% instead of 75 is something, but often tanky builds will be more in the 80% for LA Res. 300 EHP, what I mean by EHP is effective HP, meaning HP plus energy shield. So 300 EHP per act is the bare minimum. You need to try to get a lot more. Some builds are very good for that. Have a very good defense layer, so multiple layers. The more layers you have, the better. An example, besides the obvious ones like res cap, would be good chance to block spell or attack damage, immunity to corrupted blood, less effect of ignite and poison, can't be frozen, spell suppress, lot of armor, good chaos resist. And you really want to try to cap the last this one, the chaos resist when you reach yellow maps. Before is better. Another one could be less damage from crit, etc. There is a nice article in maxwell.gg, if I remember well, explaining defense layer in detail. I remember reading it back then, back in the day, and it gave me a lot of info I did not already know and changed a lot of different stuff for me regarding how I play the game. The more you advance in the campaign, the more you should be OP, not the opposite. If this happens, you are doing something wrong or you just need to farm a zone. I like to be at least 6 level over in general. Never stop and spam your skill. You need to move all the time. At the end of each act, take the time to analyze everything before you continue. This is what I do. I check my stats and compare it to the build guide to see if I am way behind in something, like for example, armor, life regen, resistances, mana regen, etc. I check all my gear, look at my weakest link, try to change it. I try to never have a piece of gear that is way behind in item level versus my level, unless the stats are just too hard to replace. Figure out if I should grind a little bit for more levels. Understand the build you are playing. Look at all the notes in the build guide. Know where to invest your gem quality first, since gem cutters are hard to get. Be over level doing your lab. Often you will feel OP in the campaign and can die in labs because of the razors and spiky totems that does a lot of fizz damage over time, which is often something you are not built for. Use your Pantheon correctly. Example, you're going to do a zone with a lot of poison, get the less effect of poison minor. So basically, your Pantheon is not something like you choose your major, you choose your minor, and you leave it there. Nope. You have to adapt with what you're going to play. Level your future gems in your secondary gear. If you know you will eventually need, for example, Chaos Golem, buy it early, put it there so it will already have some levels when you equip it. If there is a build you really want to play it as the second one. This is what I would do if I were new to HC. Choose the build I want to go as far as I can. Let's say RF Chieftain. So this would be my first build. Look at what kind of gear RF needs. Actually, let me say this. Let me try another way to say it. Let's say I want to play RF Chieftain and really push with that build. I would look at what kind of gear RF needs. I would choose another build. One that I will have fun with, but at the same time, HC compliant. Play that build until you die, but while you play, you focus on two things. Of course, you pick up stuff for the actual build you're playing right now, but you also, point number 2, pick up stuff for RF at the same time. This will make your second playthrough a lot easier because you're gonna have some gold, you're gonna have some currency, you're gonna have some leveling gear. If ever you get to maps with your first one, Park it there and use it if you want to grind something that your new build can't because too low level. I often only do a couple of tier 1 maps and stop there on my first HC playthrough. If ever I need, for example, if ever I need gold, I'm doing my second playthrough, I would choose my first and do tier 1 maps and get gold there. If everything looks good and you are still OP on your first, what I would do is tier 1 to 5 maps to maybe unlock a lead mechanic that you could farm. To give you two examples would be Blight for tons of stuff or Harvest for easy and good crafting. But I would stop there. Like I said, before I go to yellow maps, I like to have at least 3 builds just to be a little bit comfortable. Watch at least one playthrough of someone playing HCSSF. You will learn a lot from this. I have a couple of playthroughs in my channel, by the way, full playthroughs. Some with commentaries, some explaining everything, different ones. For build ideas, go to poe.ninja, go into the HCSSF League, see what is popular. It will give you ideas. If not sure how the build plays, go watch a quick YouTube guide to see if it interests you. Ask AI. I like to check with AI. I use Copilot to see if a build fits me well and good for HC. AI is still giving a lot of false info, so I always take it with a grain of salt and verify stuff before committing. If your build uses ballistas, go behind them. They will take the hit. It's not 100%, but more often than so. Positioning is now very important. You need to know how to position yourself good regarding the build you play. In boss fights, never go too far from the boss. You always want to be able to look at him to see what he does. All hits are telegraphed, so you need to see them coming. Builds where you are not the one doing the primary damage are safer builds. Example, minion builds. Another example would be something like explosive arrow builds. Since your ballistas are doing the damage. As I'm doing this, the most crazy HC build I have played so far is Val Absolution Guardian. I have a full playthrough with explaining everything that I'm actually progressing right now. Normally, by the way, normally I hate minion builds, but this one I had tons of fun since I consider it hybrid. There's maxroll.gg guide that I'm using, which is from Runray, if I remember well. There's only one actually. Be aware of the defense you are lacking. If you have 0 chaos resist and you see chaos stuff on the ground, be super careful. Always have faster attack on your traveling skill. What I mean by traveling skill is leap slam and shield charge. Sometimes you will shield, for example, sometimes you will shield charge into a pack. You want to shield charge back fast or use a flame dash or something like that to get out of there. Quartz flask, if you have the spot, can be very good since they give you phasing, so you won't get stuck because of mobs surrounding you. Read monster affixes, example on essence mobs. If you do fire damage and the affix says they have good defense or immune to fire, don't do it. Also, in doubt, skip. If you are in the presence of a rare mob that you know will take a lot of time, skip him. You don't want to fight a mob like for 30 seconds. There's just too much chance that he will one-shot you or kill you. Unless you want to invest in beast crafting, if you get in a zone where there are beasts, reset the zone. Those guys, especially the red one, can be very dangerous. If you're doing map, of course, know exactly which affixes not to run. Remember to blink. It's just a little joke. It's because it happens to me, often. I'm just too concentrated and like my eyes, I just forget to blink. And at one point, I figure out that my eyes are very dry, and I say to myself, well, you have to blink from time to time. If you get in a situation where you say to yourself, you know what, let's try this. This is a trap. Don't try anything unless you are sure. There are other leagues better for testing. I mean, like Softcore or SSF, not HC. If you have the time, do a playthrough on SSF and try to not die and play it as if it were HC. This will give you an idea on how this is possible for you. Start with little goals and go further each time you achieve. Example, first playthrough, you got to Act 2. Well, your next goal could be something like go to Act 5 after 7, 10 yellow maps. Don't try to do something really hard that will take years to get to. Sometimes build guides, even if it is HC viable, are made for softcore. Be aware, sometimes the video guide will tell you stuff like, if you play HC, don't do this instead, which will maybe not be mentioned in the written guide. Know your enemy. First time you get to a big boss, go watch a guide first to know its mechanic. This is more for maps though, or like Voidstone bosses and stuff like that. This part is regarding panic situations. You have the option to pause the game and log out or close it. Sometimes you have a skill that is good for those moments. Also, like for example, in minion builds, if you do recall, which recalls all your minions around you, which then protects you. Another one could be if you play Ballista, which build, go behind them so they take the hits, but maybe this is more the positioning thing and not a panic thing, but at the same time, it also depends of the situation. Always have your primary flask with corrupted blood immunity. It is something that is easy to die from. Quick mention of my pros and cons of playing PoE in HC. Cons. If you die, you lose your character and need to start over again. The good news is it will be transferred to Softcore League and you can still continue with the build there. So at least you have an option. You need to be comfortable in the game before thinking of playing HC. If you hate doing the campaign over and over again, which is not my case, can be very disappointing. I like doing the campaign over and over again with different types of builds because there is a lot less grinding to do and getting more levels and new gear happens very fast. You need to accept that you will die eventually. It's going to happen. There is less people playing HC, so less stuff in the market to buy. You can lose dozens of hours instantly. Losing a character can kill your motivation for days, but after a while, you get used to it. Pros. Totally different gameplay because you need to be very concentrated all the time. So the emotions are through the roof and very gratifying. Playing our softcore after this can get boring because of that though. You feel more rewarding because you are playing a much tougher version of the game. HC makes rare items exciting again. HC forces better movement, better flask usage, better planning, better understanding of the mechanics. Slower, more intentional gameplay. So this appeals to some people a lot. So less zoom brain, more awareness, more control. HC turns PoE into more of a tactical RPG, ARPG. I will leave the rest of my Act 10 playthrough. If it's something that interests you, again, note that I have some full playthroughs in my channel. Hope this helped. Enjoy.